Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome to another Living Life Naturally podcast. And today we're going to talk a little bit more about women who are in midlife, as most of us are that listen in. And we're going to sprinkle in some joint pain and ways that we can keep our fitness going in a good way during these midlife years. And also, I want to invite you ladies to join my Energized Healthy Women's Club. We talk about all things midlife in there in a holistic way. So today I want to give a huge welcome to DK. I didn't ask correctly. Ciccone?
Ciccone, actually. It's a cho sound in
Ciccone.
Italian. Yeah.
Ciccone. Aha. Okay, well, welcome, DK.
Thank
Very
you.
glad to have you here. And I want to just share a little bit about you with our listeners. So, DK is a certified Pilates instructor, and she helps people in pain improve strength, mobility, and well being in a weight neutral environment. She's also trained in pain reprocessing therapy through the Pain Psychology Center, and having begun her own journey with chronic back pain as a young teen, she has been exploring ways to help herself and others regain joy of movement for decades. So, after 20 years in the health sector, DK left a corporate career to follow her passion, later launching Movement Remedies, a chronic pain focused Pilates studio. She's in Boston, Massachusetts. And her first book, You're Meant to Move, A Guide to Conquering Chronic Pain, Increasing Stress Resilience and Reclaiming an Active Life, was released on December 2023. So this is particularly relevant as we hit that midlife menopausal stage. And so I'm looking forward to this discussion with you today, DK. And so
Same
I
here.
already know that you're from Boston.
Yes.
So, how's your weather up there?
It's finally nice, actually. I'm not actually a fan of heat. So,
Mm.
it's been a little bit of a steamy summer. But it's a little cool. And in fact, I'm getting ready to move myself and my family to Edinburgh, Scotland at the end of
Oh,
August.
how wonderful. Yeah,
Yeah, so I'm in a bit of a strange
yeah.
transition, but
My
yeah.
my sister lives in Scotland, but she's further up
Oh,
north than that. And actually, my daughter and her family are visiting Scotland at the moment. Because,
amazing.
yeah, it's a beautiful area of the world. And while you're there, you have to take a trip over to Ireland because they went there first, and their pictures were absolutely stunning. And
Amazing.
you can go up to the north of Scotland, get a ferry over to Belfast, and do some traveling from there. So that's exciting.
Yeah, yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So, how did you become interested in chronic pain? I know you've talked about having had to manage it when you were a teenager, but why has that become such a big thing and such a passion of yours?
Yeah, thank you. So I mean, as you rightly stated, obviously pain was sort of a part of my life, but working on it as a central focus of my career really happened later on in my 30s. When I started to realize that just because I was having chronic pain didn't mean it needed to run my life.
Mm,
And when
mm,
I found that there was liberation in sort of reclaiming my body's capabilities and redefining strength on my own terms. And that made me realize that there were a lot of people probably out there like me who had sort of accepted daily pain as just the way it is. Um, and I realized that, if I could find relief, 20 years later and feel better in my body, then other people probably could too. And it just felt like I guess a mission of mine to share as much as I could because it's really, really common. I mean, if you have five people in a room, at least one of them probably has daily or regular persistent pain, and we really need to start talking about it. I consider it sort of a silent um,
yeah,
epidemic of
yeah,
sorts.
yeah, it is. It's like when I was so wrapped up in my daily migraine life. Um,
Mm,
it really, the pain and the joint pain, because it's not just all in the head. A lot of times it comes from the neck and the shoulder area. And yeah, I totally understand it. So when I flipped the switch and found a way that I could live a healthy life and not have to live with daily migraines, it's like something I love to talk to even midlife women about, because they may not have had headaches before, but
right.
now maybe they're experiencing them. Just like maybe you didn't have joint pain when you were in your 30s, but when you get to your 40s, it's not so uncommon. And
Yeah.
people don't understand that there is relief and there are remedies for that chronic pain. So tell me the process that you use for helping people um, who are dealing with chronic pain. And of course, one of their complaints is, well, I can't get up and move because I hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you raised that because I mean, I think that that's just like the first fallacy of getting active with pain and of chronic pain. Because if you think about it, right, your brain is trying to help you. All of these responses in the body are come from, evolutionary processes that have allowed our species to survive. Pain is a protective mechanism. Pain is a response in the body to a threat. So, unless you've had some like acute injury in the past 24 hours, then the best thing for your body in most cases is to move.
Mhm.
So I think just the kind of reorienting ourselves. And I was the same way. I mean, I would have those back flares in my teen years, and I would just lie on the floor in my living room with my knees up for days because I didn't know what else to do. And I figured, it feels terrifying when you move and you have pain and you think, oh, the move is causing the pain. But the pain is there and it's trying to protect you. And so it could be that movements are triggering a response in your body that's pain, but the movement itself is actually not dangerous. I mean, obviously, we all want to check with a physician and make sure that that's the case, but it's really rarely the case that you need to actually limit your movement. Um, so the first thing, I mean, when I work with people is really to understand why are we moving? And it can't just be, I want to fit into my pants from whatever years ago, because I really feel super strongly that we have also undermined um, people's ability to feel good in their bodies by getting so obsessed with size. And I do,
Yes.
and at middle age, we start to put on weight and our bodies change because it's trying to figure out how to deal with the way the hormones are changing. And to then kind of tell people, oh, well, movement is not for you because you can't fit into this aesthetic, or movement is only for you if you are striving for this aesthetic. That's such a narrow definition, and it really like eliminates a lot of people. So I really want to get people oriented around, first of all, why are you here? You came for something. And it's often like, I just had a grandkid and I find that it's hard to play with them, or
Mm.
I have an anniversary coming up and we've always talked about doing this hike and I don't want to not be able to do it. I don't want to miss out on life, right? That's what it's about, is not missing out on life. So we want to orient around that why first, because that's going to be the thing we can anchor on every time that you keep showing up. You're not showing up to do the movement necessarily. You're showing up because you have that distant goal of doing something that's life affirming. And then it's really important for me to understand what movements make a person feel safe. I talk about it in my book about sort of refuge movements and reach movements. So for anybody with chronic pain, there's something that feels good, right? Maybe it's a child's pose, maybe it's just a gentle shoulder roll. There's always something you can kind of
Mm.
count on to be soothing to you. We're locomotive beings. So we want to first start by defining that vocabulary of what makes you feel safe and then what makes you feel afraid. And the feel afraid is where the change comes, because when we can really get underneath why certain things feel scary, fear is the fuel of pain.
Mm.
And so we can kind of chip away at that over time. And so I always make my movement sessions with people around anchoring first on sort of what you feel safe with. And then depending on how your flare is that day, we move into challenging things or we stay there. And we also celebrate our successes as we go. So it's really, really, really important that we use resistance training of some kind. The equipment that's in Pilates is spring-based resistance. So we're always trying to do things that allow us to build muscle and strength so that we can feel more confident in the body. And then having that confidence and stability allows you to more readily reach into those challenging movements. And so that is the process that sort of starts to build on itself because you keep remembering why you're doing it. You challenge yourself a little bit and you say, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And then you're ready to challenge a little bit more and you sort of keep progressing and keep progressing. And it's not for me about seeing pain in the rearview mirror. I mean, pain is part of life, and so it will continue to arise. But it's how do we make sure that pain doesn't prevent us from actually having the life, like fulfilling life events that we want, and how do we make it more of like just sort of a nuisance that we learn to manage?
Yes, I know you also deal with your clients about the traditional medicine side, where they get it wrong about chronic pain. Can you talk about that a little bit? Um,
Yeah. So, I mean, where I struggled in my journey, I mean, I think anyone who's had chronic pain, and I also deal with a lot of chronic conditions. So folks who pain may be one of their symptoms, but they also have several like autoimmune conditions and
mm,
things that are going
mm,
on. And the way that our system is set up, and I worked in healthcare administration for the bulk of my professional career, because of the reimbursement model that's very procedure oriented, right? It's like you're going to the mechanic for your car. So you go in and you see the doctor and they know how to like put the wheels on and send you back out. But, if you have something wrong with the hydraulics, there's like another guy, right? So it kind of feels that way when you're dealing with a chronic condition and you're kind of just bouncing from person to person to person, getting to conflicting advice a lot of the times
mm,
and not pulling back and seeing the bigger picture. And what I now realize is I've been suffering with anxiety since I was a very young person. I think I have felt fundamentally unsafe in my body since I was quite young. And so it's no surprise to me now that pain was a thing that started flaring up, especially in those kind of tender years of like 13, 14, when you're
mm.
going through a lot of change. And I've now talked to other people who had similar flare-ups or beginning of pain journeys around that same time. So I think there's a challenge just in the way that it's structured because there's really no person you can go to who can see your pain experience from end to end and help you navigate it. There's the fact that the medical system is obsessed with weight. I cannot even tell you how many people have come in here and, they're like, well, I don't know, your knees hurt you, lose some weight. I mean, it's such an unhelpful piece of
Yeah.
feedback because it kind of reinforces, oh, you're the problem, your body's the problem. And like any negative narrative you already have about how my body can't be trusted, my body is unsafe, like it just reinforces it. But also I've never seen evidence that weight loss leads to less pain. I've never seen any research on that.
Mm,
And what really changed it for me, especially since I've had these folks who, where they had like joint replacement surgeries that were delayed due to weight. And you see research that says that moderate running actually slows the progression or improves knee osteoarthritis. So you're going to tell me that like running, which is a huge force on the joints, is somehow okay, but me just standing and like living in a large body is somehow a problem when all we're talking about is force on the joint. Like that just kind of to me made me
mm.
realize, there really isn't any reason why we can't just challenge ourselves. And, there's evidence out there, people who continue to do amazing things in large bodies. I think you could just watch the shot putters from Olympics to see what I mean. Um, and then, the other thing I think that really misses the mark is as I was saying before, just kind of understanding how how to talk to people about why pain is happening in their body without it sounding really like, oh, I'm calling you crazy. You know, the kind of it's all in your head. I think people have gotten better about not saying those sorts of things, but what they really mean when they say it's all in your head is that your nervous system is responsible for this response in your body, and we can do some things with mental health to tackle that, but that's just a really difficult message to deliver in a productive way. And I think we fail at that. We fail at giving people the tools to navigate that experience for themselves. And people end up walking away thinking that they're being told that they're just imagining the pain.
Mm,
Um,
mm. Yeah. So let me ask you then, from more of a menopausal standpoint, what, if anything, should women change with their movement practice during the menopausal journey?
yeah, I mean, I think it's well documented that increasing resistance training is super important at this period. I mean, it's really about protecting your bones, in particular, and even Pilates. I mean, Pilates is wonderful for mobility and joint pain and strengthening for your core. I would never say that it's sufficient load necessarily um, to protect bone loss. So I think it's important to lift heavy things during menopause, but I think it's also really important to reject the super noisy social narrative that it's time to be put on a shelf. And you don't
Yes.
belong in that class, that fitness class with the young people, or like you don't have a right to take up space and in that um lyrical dance class that's full of young people. Or I think we just need to be more um ready to demand the right to take up space in activities that might seem like they're off limits. Like why do we need to have, like an exercise class for older people and an exercise class for younger people? I mean, I think you can go in and experience the energy of an exciting high intensity class and do it in your way. And we need to normalize that. And unfortunately, the health and fitness industry is not going to normalize it for us. We have to go in and demand the right to access these spaces. And I hear over and over again how people feel like, well, I haven't been active since such and such because I haven't known where to go, or I haven't felt like that's for me. And I haven't felt like, like, accepted in those spaces, or I was afraid I was going to fall and get hurt. So it is important that you're also doing a movement practice that allows you to increase your sense of confidence in your balance. One of the main things I hear from people around that time is that fear of falling.
Right.
And I think that, if you have a history of osteopenia and you're kind of, that can kind of make that even worse. But being afraid of falling is actually a contributing factor to having greater pain intensity. So we really want to tackle that. So doing things that challenge your balance in a safe way, which we do a lot with the Pilates equipment, but you can do that, in a yoga class, you can do that in a lot of places. It's important to keep working on balance, because that kind of stuff will fade with time. I mean, from the time you're 30 and onwards, you're kind of already at risk of losing some of your balance that you might have had as a younger person. So that plus the strengthening are the two things that are really important.
And is there a way that women can actually do strengthening um, exercises at home?
Oh yeah, for sure. Um, I mean, so one thing that's gained popularity is the weighted vest.
Mm,
So there have been lots of talk about that. There's lots of great, books coming out lately and more research and bringing the conversation of menopause, I think, to the forefront more. And the weighted vest is one of the things people have been suggesting, 15, 20, 30 pounds, and just going around your house doing stuff in a weighted vest is adding additional load or force to your body. And that in essence is going to make your muscles work a little harder. Um, but you can definitely do stuff in your house with a couple weights, taking a class. Obviously, you want to feel that you're safe there. So what I often recommend to people if they want to do workouts in the home is to work one-on-one with someone, for a short time, so that you know when you're feeling it in all the right places, and then you can have that confidence you need when you're doing
mm,
it at home. But
mm.
yeah, absolutely.
So, what's the number one thing that you would want women in pain to know?
I want them to know that you don't have to live with this every day. That this, just because you're in pain today, it doesn't mean that you have to be in pain tomorrow. And I think every time, because I have pain flare-ups too. I mean, it still comes and goes, right? And every time a pain flare comes, no matter how many times I've watched it leave, I still am afraid it's a permanent state.
Mm,
And the reality is that your body is meant to move, and we are we are mobile beings by design. and have evolved that way. And you will always progress if you, I'm realizing now this is probably four things, but I'll stick the landing on you will owe it, your body will always progress if you challenge it. That's one of the most amazing, miraculous things about the human body that it took me a while to wrap my head around, is that you can start on your 81st birthday and decide that you want to lift weights, and you will get stronger because your body will respond to the challenge of resistance. And so there's always progress that's possible, always. And that, I think, is like the hopeful message that I wish I hadn't heard, in the beginning, instead of the
Mm.
like, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, forget the don'ts, because you got to live. And it's possible to find fulfillment in movement, even if pain is a roommate that you have to live with.
Yeah, a quick story on that is that my husband injured his knees in football when he was in high school, and
Mm.
then he slipped when we were stationed in Utah and re-injured the knee. He's had like 3 or 4 surgeries on his knee, and they've kept telling him, you really need to think about knee replacement. Well, my husband is very strong-willed in that regard, and he is out playing golf. He's out lifting stuff, cutting the yard, getting on the roof and cleaning it,
Oh my
and
gosh.
very, very active. And he has I mean, he knows the pain, but he pushes through the pain, um, because the other side, you can have fulfillment and enjoyment in what you're doing, and the pain doesn't have to define you.
Yes. Yes. And I think what's hard for most people is being, how do you discern pain is actually something wrong, and pain there's nothing wrong. Like, it sounds like he's very confident and knows, okay, the pain is here, but I'm not doing anything to hurt myself. I'm just doing what I want to do and what I need to
Right.
do. So I think figuring out how to discern that is the key. Once you can unlock that for yourself and say, okay, I'm actually safe right now, it can change everything.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now, I'm excited that you have a digital copy of your book. And if people email you,
Yes.
you'll get that out to them. So I'll put that in the show notes. And I think you have something else for our listeners as well, right?
Yes. So I teach 3 times a week a restorative Pilates mat class. So if you've seen Pilates on Instagram, it's not like that. This is intended to be in addition to a core and glute and hip strengthening class, time for affirming language, deep breathing, kind of nervous system relaxation, and all that stuff. So it's a very holistic class that is tailored to all the conditions that of the community that I work with. So I'm happy to give out a free pass for a first class to that, to experience movement and hopefully find a little joy in
Mhm.
something new.
That's awesome. And where is the best place for people to find you?
So movementremedies.org is my website, and there's ways to get in touch with me there and to get on the wait list to work with me as well. But you can also follow me on Instagram at movement_remedies, and also on Facebook.
Great. I'll have all those links in the show notes. And I think this is just such an important thing for us to realize as we get older, just as you're saying, because I know from my own journey, I went from never exercising to
Mm,
actually running. And I had people all around me saying, "Oh, it's so hard on your knees. You shouldn't be running." But it gave me joy,
yeah.
and it didn't hurt me. And I would say that it's never too late, as you said, with 81-year-old people, it's never too late to start in some way with your movement.
Yes.
Yes, so important. And probably my second pillar of health when I think about health and well-being from a holistic perspective and what I teach my clients, because the movement is such a key
Mm,
part. And when they hear movement, they are thinking, oh my gosh, I can't go out there and run, I can't go out there and do a huge walk. But there are so many different parts of movement that you can do to slowly begin.
yeah, 100%. And the benefits are not just physical, we didn't even get into that, the chemicals
Right.
that, and the benefits for stress relief. And yeah, it's just good for you. I mean, I believe that it's the number one health promoting behavior. If you want to do one thing, um, I really think finding a way to be active every day is
Mm,
that thing.
mm. Well, DK, I really appreciate you being here with us today and sharing your love of Pilates and helping people with chronic pain. And I look forward to getting this published out so that people can grab some of your free stuff and begin to move more.
Yeah, absolutely. It was such a joy to talk to you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.